Okay, and we can get started here. So I'll give a quick introduction about what we're doing here. My name is Sarah Weitzel. I work for the University of Delaware English Language Institute in their Office of Recruitment, Marketing, and Communications. I'm also a recent graduate of the MA TESOL program, which is a Master of Arts in Teaching English as a Second Language. I'm happy today because I have Kim Stock and Brennan Clarke here with me. Kim and Brennan are also recent graduates of the MA TESOL program, but we have them here today, most notably because they are the back-to-back Teachers of the Year in their respective school districts. Brennan won last year and Kim won this year. So first of all, congratulations, Kim and Brennan, on winning this important award. That's a big accomplishment.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, I was the 2020 recipient of the Cape Henlopen School District Teacher of the Year, and then Kim just got recognized as the 2021 Teacher of the Year for Red Clay School District. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, very exciting. And so when we were talking before this interview began, you had mentioned something about like an extra round of the Teacher of the Year award. How does that go?
Yes, so so you get recognized first at the building level by your colleagues nominate you, or a parent or a student. And then once you go from the building, you go to the district level, and then Kim is getting ready to experience the state level competition. So she'll go up against, I think it was 19 teachers were in my cohort. And so it'd probably be a very similar number for her. But it's a great opportunity to network and to see like all the great things that so many awesome educators are doing across Delaware. And you get to, brag on yourself and talk about all the fun things that you've been doing with your ESOL students and in your classroom over the past couple of years. So it's going to be a good opportunity.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Red Clay, our process was like just slightly different. We went from first you would win the building, and then from that, then the district. There was another level where the district then narrowed it down to 4 finalists, and then from the 4 finalists, and it's and as Brennan said, every step along the way has just been honestly just a huge honor and a really happy surprise, and has really offered me some really bright spots, and to be honest, our entire school some bright spots along this time. So it has been nice. But yes, I'm curious about the next step, and a little bit nervous, but obviously I just feel really honored and really very humbled by this experience too, as well.
Well, whatever the next round is, good luck, Kim.
Thank you.
So let's, before we really jump into our questions here, you've already both told us a little bit about yourselves. Would you mind telling us what school district you work for, if you didn't mention it, and what grades you teach? Can we begin with Brennan for this one?
Yeah, sounds good. So again, as Sarah introduced me, I'm Brennan Clarke. I'm an ESL teacher with the Cape Henlopen School District, and I'm currently teaching at Richard A. Shields Elementary in Lewis, Delaware, and I work with elementary students in grades K to 5.
Thanks, Brennan. And how about you, Kim?
Yeah, so I work for the Red Clay School District. Specifically, I'm at the Thomas McCain High School. So I also teach ELL students as well as ELA students for grades 9 through 12.
Okay. And Kim, what originally made you interested in getting into education?
So I have to say that when I first knew that I wanted to become a teacher was actually when I was a junior in high school. And in my AP Lang class, a teacher that I just really still respect so much, we were doing some kind of presentation where we had to teach the class something. And she said to me, she says, Kim, you would make a really good English teacher. And I just thought, wow, yeah, okay, that's what I want to do then. And but more than that, she was actually first teachers ever to really bring in diverse authors. She introduced me to Chinua Achebe and Maya Angelou. And at the time, nobody knew about these authors, at least not in Nebraska. at the time. And it was just, it was something that she really helped me realize that literature and reading and writing could look and be more reflective of real life. So that was really exciting. And it's something that I've just, so yeah, so I've always wanted to be a teacher ever since I was a teenager.
Uh-huh. Well, and I'm glad that you mentioned diverse authors. I actually, later in the interview, I want to ask you a little bit more about diversity in ESL. But first, Brennan, what about your experience? How did you know when you wanted to get into education?
Oh, my road was a little less straightforward than Kim's, but one of my first jobs was summer camp counselor, and I always enjoyed like working with kids and playing games and helping them out. And I always found it really rewarding. Then when I went to college, I was inspired by one of my history teachers to pursue history. And then as I was like finishing up my degree, I realized, what am I going to do with a history degree? And so I thought, teaching is a great profession, and I've always enjoyed my history teachers. So I decided to pursue secondary social studies, and was looking forward to being a high school history teacher and coaching sports, doing that very much like generic history teacher, sports coach. But after I had finished up my degree and certification, one of my friends was teaching abroad in the Republic of Georgia next to Turkey and near Russia along the Black Sea. And he convinced me to just, pack my things up and leave a couple of months after I finished things up there and to teach English as a foreign language overseas. And once I did that, that just put me on a path forward, and I've never looked back. And I've been teaching English and ESL ever since then. And it's been a great, great journey and very rewarding along the way.
So you can thank your friend for that good suggestion.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I have to give him my kudos.
Uh-huh. So looking a little bit at professional backgrounds, Kim, I did before we had this interview, I looked on the Red Clay School District website, and it explains that you're an educator. You have 13 years experience with a variety of roles. You've been a middle school ELA teacher, you've been a tutor and GED instructor, you've managed a community education center. So you've gotten to experience a wide variety of positions within education. So having already started your career in education, I know that a couple of years ago you decided to go back to school at UD through the ACE program, which is a program for current Delaware teachers to get further certification in teaching English as a second language. What made you decide to go back to school after you had begun your career?
Right. And even before that, somewhere in the middle, I ended up getting my first master's from the University of Pennsylvania in educational leadership. And when I went back, when I was hired for this job at McCain, I guess it would now be 4 or 5 years ago, it was for an EL position. And so in order for me to keep my job, I had to get the K-12 certification for ESL. And I had, as you said, I had already, ran and taught the community education, adult education for ESL adults. So I was already familiar with it, but I did not have that certification. I just had the administration certification and the English language arts certification. So initially, I had to go back and just take the 5 initial classes with the ACE cohort for the certification. And I think that what I found was that I was learning so much, and the classes were challenging, and I definitely felt like I could apply the things that I was already learning in the classes, because it was sort of like driving the school bus and putting the wheels on at the same time is kind of, what it felt like. But there was just so much to learn. And so I realized after maybe about the 4th, or even maybe it was even the 5th class, it was like, I think our 2nd class with Nigel Kaplan, Dr. Kaplan. And I realized, I knew that there was more to learn. And so I wanted to continue on with the master's program and take the additional 5 classes. And so I'm so grateful that I have done that. And I just feel like, it's just been so rewarding. And and like I said, I've been able to apply directly. I mean, like that same day, what I've been learning. So it's been pretty awesome.
Okay, great. Tons of application.
Yeah, absolutely. Real,
Okay.
like real life application. And it just, and what I really appreciate about the classes is that they have really tried to help us see what we're learning from both a K-12 perspective as well as in the college or adult level too.
Okay.
So because in some of those things overlap, but not everything. So I really appreciate it.
Great. And actually, you mentioned Nigel Kaplan. I spoke with him before this interview. Nigel is an ELI faculty member, and he's also the director of the ACE program. And he wanted anybody who is watching to know just how great the ACE program can be. Since it was launched in 2016, 4 cohorts have graduated. The 5th is working on graduating, and they're recruiting for the 6th right now. So anybody who might be watching, there will be a link about more information for the ACE program in the description of this video.
Awesome.
Brennan, I also understand that, like Kim, you had some experience before you decided to come back to UD. I read from the Cape Gazette, which reported in 2019 when you won the Teacher of the Year award, that you had some experience teaching abroad in the Republic of Georgia, like you had mentioned. And I think it also said Costa Rica and South Korea. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So I had, like you had just said, I taught abroad in each of those countries. And that's really where I fell in love with teaching English. Not only was I able to travel, but I was able to still work with students. And so that really married together like 2 big interests in my life. However, when I came back to the US after my contract finished up in South Korea, I didn't have the credentials to teach ESL here. So I was hired and I was put on like an emergency certification plan. But then, like you had said, the ACE program was an option that UD was offering. And I was able to take a lot of the courses down here in Sussex County at the Del Tech campus in Georgetown. So it was close, it was convenient, and like Kim, like I learned so much, and like it really did have so much application, and we were able to apply what we were learning, you know, the next day in the classroom, or like what we're covering was like it's really relevant to what we're doing, either like in the classroom or like as a school. I remember with one of the courses, one that Dr. Levine was teaching us, it was uncanny because like it seemed like every week, like I was addressing something in the school building that we had discussed the prior week in class. So I was just like, man, like this education that I'm getting is well worth it because of like the practical application of it and how much it's impacting not just like the students in my classroom, but like how we're addressing things, you know, on a global scale at the building level and addressing other students as well. And one of the things that we've learned a lot through University of Delaware and through the ACE program and the Emory TESOL program is helping students who are struggling, like readers, struggling writers, and a lot of the skills that we've learned apply to students who are low achieving overall. And so we've been able to like take some of the techniques and strategies and turnkey that into professional development for our colleagues so that they can see that the ESL techniques that we've used are applicable to, you know, a lot of students and help not just ELs, but, you know, our regular native English speakers as well. And so it's just been a really great experience, really rewarding and very applicable from, you know, from day one all the way to the time that we finished.
Great. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you both found so many things that you were learning that you could just use right away and also share with your colleagues. So Brennan, referring again to the Cape Gazette article that I read, I also learned that outside of your work in the classroom, you're also involved in your community. You volunteer at an agency called La Colectiva. You take part in a boys running program. I believe it's called Let Me Run, that encourages physical activity and good citizenship. So if we kind of broaden the scope of education to not just be what happens in the classroom, but also, you know, how you're involved in the community, how do you see those 2 things fitting together?
That's a great question. That was also part of my Teacher of the Year platform last year, is that how schools can be pillars of strength in our communities these days, and how we need to view schools as a place where all of our students and our families from our communities come together, they blend, they meld, they mesh. And it's from those interactions, from those relationships, that so much more can be brought forth. Case in point, within my school building, in addition to the Let Me Run program that you mentioned that I do with 4th and 5th grade boys, it's like Girls on the Run for those who are familiar with that program, but it's a lesser known program for boys, and it looks at how to deal with negative emotions, bullying, frustration, anger, how to be better citizens and demonstrate leadership skills in the classroom and in the school. In addition to that program, I've also started a program for our families called Unidad en la Comunidad, which is Unity in the Community, where we bring in our ESOL families and we share out important information with them that they may not be getting shared in their native language. And it's a chance for them to see the other faces in the community, and for us to build better relationships with our ESL families in that specific community. So it's been all around a really great cause.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing a little bit more about those experiences. Okay, so Kim, we'll turn our focus back to you a little bit. You had mentioned earlier a little bit about diversity. I read on the Red Clay School District website that you are a Red Clay diversity champion. Yep. Can you tell us first a little bit about what it means to be a diversity champion in your school district? And then a little bit more broadly, why is awareness of diversity so important in the ESL classroom?
Yeah, so with Red Clay, they have elected for there to be in each school building a diversity champion, and in some school buildings there are two. Mm-hmm. And then you are part of a committee where we continue to learn more ways to make our schools and classroom more culturally proficient. So more than just celebrating holidays or anything like that, or even just acknowledging that we are a diverse population, but really infusing that in the physical outlook, in the curriculum outlook, as well as even just in the mind and spirit of each school and throughout the district. So of course, that's something that's always been important to me. Like I mentioned, it was, I think when I was in school, when I was in high school or middle school, I didn't think about those things. I was taught what I was taught. I didn't question what I was taught. And it wasn't until I was in a class where I read authors who were non-white, and I realized, wow, it was so important, because in so many ways I could see myself and the things that were important to me reflected back. And I think just from a personal level, I've never forgotten that. And so diversity has been something that I've tried to be involved with from high school to undergrad to my entire career. And of course, as we can see, how important it is that when diversity is not a part of the conversation with education, and specifically with our EL students, how damaging that can be. And I think that we are more aware of it today, and realizing how by not including authors of color, of learning about the entire aspect of history, how damaging that is to not just students of color and not just educators of color, but for all of us. And that I just really believe that, now more than ever, that as teachers, I mean, we have both the honor and the responsibility to make changes within our classroom. We have to really take some hard, at how we are teaching and what we're teaching. Can students honestly see themselves reflected in your curriculum and in the physical outlook of their school? Do they feel that what they do at home, or the languages that they speak, or that the religion or their sexual orientation, that those things are respected and protected? Mm-hmm. And that it's an opportunity for everybody to learn about that, And I think that if we're honest, I don't know that all of our students feel that way. I don't know that all of our educators feel that way. And so it's something that we have to continually work on that. But as teachers, we absolutely are part of the solution. And I think that we can see that now more than ever.
Yeah, Kim, thank you for sharing about your experiences with that. All right, so we'll move the focus back to both of you right now. So at the end of the school year, you both faced a challenge that teachers all over the United States and in many parts of the world were facing, which was moving on instruction online in response to COVID-19. So I know that that, as I said, came with challenges, but I've also seen a lot of neat stories, heard a lot of interesting information about the way that teachers and school districts have been responding to continue meeting the needs of their students. So this question is open to both of you. Do you have anything you'd like to share about a way that you were striving to keep meeting the needs of your students, even while dealing with the challenges of online instruction?
Yeah, definitely. It has been, thank you for acknowledging how challenging this time has been for not only the students, but for teachers as well. And one of the things that I had to do is I had to really break out of some of my comfort zones. And you know, I'm a middle-aged mom, really. I realized that one of the things I had to do to try to reach my teenagers was I had to think more like them. And so that's when I started my Instagram page for my classrooms. And that's when I opened up my TikTok account and everything. And I put myself out there and I made TikTok challenges for my students. And I posted on Instagram and I did Instagram lives with them. And those are things that I don't know that I would have normally have done, but I realized that it wasn't about the things that made me comfortable. It was about it was about what I could do again to try to meet students where they were. And there were a lot of challenges sometimes with the online learning. And I know that as adults, we think that it's perfectly reasonable that we would have a 10 a.m. class online. But for the teenagers, that was actually becoming quite a challenge. They were not up at 10 a.m. That was a really difficult thing for them to do. So I had to be really flexible about how I met them and how I searched and how I made contact. And so I had to think more like a teenager, definitely. And I had to, really quickly learn. I mean, we all learned the Zoom platform, and then I also learned how to use Pear Deck to make that more interactive with my students. And I'm still learning. It's still not it's not perfect. And I mean, just thinking ahead for the fall, I'm going to assume that we're going to have some kind of mask or shield or something. So I already ordered some clear plastic face shields, because as an EL teacher, it's super important that your students can see your face. And I always say, as equally important as it is for students to see that you're smiling, it's just as important for them to see when you're not smiling. So I need both, and my students need both. And so I'm already thinking about what can we do to continue learning. And honestly, for the beginning of the year, we're going to have to be really creative in how if we are online, how we can grow those relationships with new students to the building. That's something I'm still really thinking about. So I don't know, but I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to try new things too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love to hear about you getting on social media.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, and of course I have 2 teenage daughters who they had so much fun making fun of me the entire time. So I just figured, I survived them making fun of me. So my students are generally nicer to me than my own teenage daughters. So there you go.
And how about you, Brennan?
This is why you've been recognized as your district teacher of the year, kid, where you're just flexible, you just jump right into it. It's awesome. I also love the idea about the face shields. I need to look into that as well. I'm thinking that they could be useful for even like a non-pandemic year, teaching like my kindergarten students who tend to be a little bit germier and hands-on than most. So that barrier could be very beneficial. Like Kim said, this has been a really, really challenging year. It's been challenging not just for teachers and schools, but also for our families. And what I've learned from this, and one of the things that I think is one of the good things that come from all this, is it has underscored how important schools are to our families, to our communities. I know one of the big things that Cape did, as well as other school districts, is that a lot of our students do rely on breakfast and lunch from schools. So we are able to continue handing out meals, delivering meals, having places set up throughout different areas and locations where families could come and get food for their students and anyone under 18 at home. So I think that really underscored how important schools are to our communities, to our families, to our students. And it's not just the academics always, like it's getting into the fact that, you know, we have these physiological needs that schools fill, you know, that schools support and fill that need. We've talked over the past couple of years, we've talked about having to address like Maslow's before Bloom. And so it's looking at taking care of those physiological needs before you can take care of the learning goals. And it's just been great to see how schools, even during this challenge, have been able to still support our students and our families, despite the remote learning, despite the distance, despite the isolation and everything like that. And one of the things that I've taken away academically from this is I was given the ESOL teachers with my school district given more of an opportunity to collaborate with classroom teachers in developing materials and things like that. And the materials and resources that we developed were received with high regard. And I think it helped to demonstrate that the things that we're doing with our students, again, are not things that can just be used in isolation. Like the resources, materials, and everything that we're coming up with can benefit so many other students other than just ESL students. And I'm grateful to be working with these teachers and these grade level teams moving forward so we can continue to utilize ESL techniques and strategies to benefit just not ELs, but all learners. So there are some good things that have come from this, and Kim hit on a lot of those as well, especially with learning that new technology and, you know, making those mistakes and just, you know, building, our district is called it building the plane while flying it. Like Kim said, putting the school bus together while driving it. So like, yeah, it's just been a process, but it's been a good one.
Yeah, lots of challenges, but also lots of learning opportunities as well.
Yeah, and I would also say that I think that one of the things that my school did is that we checked in on each other, because it was such a difficult time for teachers and students and families. And a lot of what I did as a teacher was checking in on kids and on families. And I will say that moving forward, we're going to have to really take a hard look at why is it that, for example, in Red Clay, even though it's a one-to-one district, so all of our students had a Chromebook, why was it that there were still students without internet? And as late May, I was still, you know, making paper copies of assignments for students and literally driving them to their house so they could still pass classes, because they still didn't have access to internet. And I think a lot of that has to do with language barriers, as well as, you know, what Brennan was saying, that connecting the families to the schools and just making sure that they're still part of that conversation. And in a time like something like this pandemic, it's more important than ever, because if the parents don't understand what's happening and how to advocate for their child, help them, we need to help give those tools so that they can do that, because every parent wants their child to succeed.
Okay, yeah, great. As you both said, a big challenge. I'm glad that there are teachers like you responding to it. So we're getting really close to the end here. I just have one last question. This is open to either of you. For any prospective English language instruction teachers who may be watching, do you have any advice or words of encouragement?
No, I love this question, and I know Kim can probably talk, a lot about this as well. One of the things that I didn't realize this getting into ESL, especially teaching ESL back here in the States. But one of the things that I realized I like the most is the relationships that you build with the students. Like, relationships are your foundation of any kind of teaching. Like, you need to have a solid relationship with your students. But the cool thing about ESL is that you have your students for years at a time. It's not like you're like a first grade teacher or fifth grade teacher and you just have that student for 1 year and that's it. Like, I have kindergartners who I'm going to have for 6 years. And so I'm going to be able to see their development, see their growth, like, and make a difference in their lives for 6 years. So like, I just love that as an ESL teacher, you have the ability to work with students in that capacity over so many years, and like the relationship that you can build with them and their families and the difference that you can make on their educational outcomes. It's great. And it's not something that I immediately realized as an ESL teacher, but it's something that's definitely grown on me over the past couple of years.
Yeah, Brennan, I love that you said that, because I agree. I think that's one of the really special aspects about our job, is that we get to see these students and we get to be their teacher. For me, it's for 4 years while they're in high school. And I was able to see the students who I started out with as their freshman teacher graduate from high school, and that was so bittersweet and so special. I mean, more special than how it normally is when I go to graduations and see the seniors graduate. But I would just say specifically about UD, that Dr. Stevens and Dr. Kaplan and honestly, and other professors and teachers that we've had along the way, Dr. Perlman, who is a high school teacher in Red Clay too, who's also teaching these classes. This program is just honestly just excellent. And it is one of the why I didn't necessarily have to go on. I already had my master's, but that I just realized that I was getting so much out of being in this program. And I knew that I wanted to continue, that it was going to be a huge benefit for myself, my students, and then ultimately for the school. And so I would just say that being an EL teacher is not the same thing as being a traditional English teacher. It's so special and it's so fun, and I think that's why I keep doing it. And I'm never going back to being a traditional English teacher, because, and although I love teaching literature but you can still do that. You can still do those things. It's just so much fun, and the things that you get to learn about your students. I say go for it if you're thinking about adding it. And the reality is that we're all EL teachers anyway. So because there's one teacher in my building who doesn't work with EL students. And so you want to learn those strategies anyway, because at the end of the day, we want to be teachers for our students. So yeah, I would say definitely go for it.
Well said, Kim.
Yes. Thank you very much. So that's the last question for today. Kim and Brennan, thank you very much for being here. Again, congratulations, Brennan, on last year's award and Kim on this year's award. I really appreciated hearing your perspectives.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's been a really fun opportunity.
Yeah, great. All right. Well, enjoy your summer and good luck with teaching, whether it's online, in person, or some sort of a mixture next year.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.